Boy, what do you think is the number one most feared thing in life ever? I've thought about this for a while, maybe guns, a knife, spiders, insects. There's a lot of things that people fear. But I think the most instinctual one, and one that's universal amongst every person out there, is death. Death is the universal fear that every living thing has. I was thinking, why do people fear death so much? I don't want to just chalk it up to instinct, because instinct doesn't really add up. There's other things that are based on instinct, but we still don't abide by completely, Being really horny is an instinct, but you don't see people just having sex in the middle of the road. No. Only people that have absurdly strong instincts would say so or would do so. So it's definitely not instinct that leads people to fear death so greatly. But I think honestly, it's more of a psychological thing where it's regrets. People end up regretting dying too early because they still have things that they want to do in their life. They still have things that they'd rather continue going forward and pursuing in their life. But that talks into why do people have this desire to live anyways? It shows that there's something in that life that they have and they want to continue doing, where it would be taken away upon death. And for some people that might be family, for some others that might be work, for others it might be like a pet, their kid. People have a lot of reasons to stay alive and keep on going. But when people lose that reason, they lose their will to live, and hence they no longer really fear death, or rather, they just don't value their life anymore. And death is just a loss of life. So really, the fear of death is just a love of life. A universal love of life, where we want to preserve ourselves and want to continue living. But I think fearing death is something that you can overcome very easily. It just requires a near-death experience, which, as I'm saying this, sounds a little difficult to acquire. But in my life, I've had one actual near-death experience as a 5-year-old, and one where I lost my will to live and really didn't want to continue living, where I didn't love life anymore. First time was as a 5-year-old, I almost died and I had a near-death experience. And from that point forward, I don't know, seeing that I could die at every moment, I just kind of okay, it is what it is. I already almost did that once as a kid. Or maybe I felt kind of invincible, thinking that, oh, I've already escaped death once, I can escape death another time. I don't know. But as a kid, I never really feared death. Even in the moments where I almost did die, I almost got hit by a car or something like that. I almost got separated from my mom and sister. I was kind of huh? Maybe I was just too stupid as a kid to realize that. But the other part where I think I really overcame my fear of death and really accepted death as something that just happens and not this big thing to fear was as a 16-year-old when I lost my will to live. Back then, I was not in the best state mentally, and the only thing that really kept me going at that time was my family, where I knew that if I died and took my life in that moment, my family would suffer a little too much than I wanted to, so I ended up living for their sake so that they wouldn't suffer as much. But after a little scuffle with my mom, I slowly realized that living solely because they don't want me to die is kind of a stupid reason to live. At that same time, I found another reason to live, being God, where God gave me another reason to continue living, and it was to follow him, seeing that he gave me this life, and he wanted me to follow him. And so, that's kind of the main reason why I don't fear death anymore. It's knowing that this life has very little to offer to me anyways, There are a lot of things that I do like. Gym is nice, the people that I talk to is nice, But it's not all that. And, if God wanted me to take God wanted to take away my life right now, so be it, you know? If I die a little earlier, it's not so bad seeing the big man up there a little earlier. Fine by me, honestly. But I think it's really having this idea that death is something that just happens, you know? Because the only reason why someone would fear death is because they haven't done enough. Their life is inadequate for their death, for when they die. They still have things that they want to do, and they're powerless to continue doing it. Life is what gives us the power to continue living and doing such things, but death takes away that power from us. It takes that ability to do things anymore. But that's why you ought to live as if every single day you were to die, as weird as that sounds. Because it sounds a little strange, you know? To overcome your fear of death, you have to almost live as if you fear death every single day? Yeah, I get it. But fear is something in your mind. Fear is something that you feel, not something that you do, right? And so if you live as if death is just around the corner, because it really could be, it makes you live in a way that you make every single day as best as it could, as best as you can. You make it into something special where you do your best, you give it your all, but you don't live and think that death is tomorrow. We don't know when death is coming, but it is coming. And that's something that's a blessing I think God gave us, where we don't know when we will die. Because if we don't know when we'll die, we can continue living in kind of ignorance, hoping that today we don't die and we can still do what we do every single day. But you have to live it so that when the day actually comes, when you don't know, when the day, what am I saying? Okay, so the idea is this, right? You live as if death is around the corner, but you don't think it. Because when you live that way, you live with a sense of urgency and make the most out of what you're given day after day after day. You show gratitude, you show gratefulness, and you make the most out of what you're given. But you don't have the instinctual thought in your head because you don't know when you actually die. And that's very much a blessing that God gives, so that we don't actually have to worry about when we die. We can still continue living in ignorance, hoping that, and almost assuming that we're gonna live the very next day. But in that way, where you make the most out of every single moment, you can't have, or it's very difficult to have regrets and actually fear the day you die as something bad. When you live each day doing your very best, you can at least internally tell yourself, I don't think I could have done much more, and that's fine. I'm fine with dying right now, you know? So maybe that's why I'm fine with dying. Because I try and make each day as best as I can, you know? Looking to God, going through the Bible, spending time with Him, sitting out here in nature, working with my body, you know, playing games, spending time with friends, eating good food, being with my family. Life is good. But but you should never forget the fact that death will loom. But you shouldn't keep that in the forefront of your mind. It should very much be in the back burner. In the front of your mind should be gratitude each and every day that you get to live another day. That the grace of God allows you to have and continue having this life of yours. But yeah, that was a little messed up and a little jumbled up, but I hope it made sense. If it doesn't, let me know in the comment section down below. But yeah, that's about it for me. Hope y'all have a good day. Hope y'all don't die tomorrow.